Hey guys, welcome back. It's Scorpio Mars here, and this is the podcast Between Realms, where we psychoanalyze fandom culture and its effect on the individual and the community. Do we still take movies seriously? Art, algorithm, and the age of iPhone. We're starting off with something simple but kind of uncomfortable. When was the last time you walked out of a movie and felt like it changed the way you think? Not just it was fun or that CGI was insane or something deeper. And I'm not just talking about the people that left the Avatar movie and talked about how beautiful the scenery was. Because lately it feels like movies are everywhere, more accessible than ever, and yet somehow easier to dismiss. We scroll past them, half watch them, argue about them online. I mean, the people I get stuck in that rabbit hole when you see that little clip of a movie, then you scroll over the page and you're on part like 799. It's a great time to watch an entire movie through TikTok clips. So this raises the question that this episode lives inside. Do we see movies as an art form or just more content? And if movies are still art, why does it feel like fewer people are willing to meet them halfway? So at the same time that movies like Sinners are absolutely phenomenal films but are still being underserved in the media and in this upcoming award season, meanwhile Zootopia 2, who mind you has joined the exclusive club of $1 billion movies, they have been highly acclaimed for their ability to resonate with the adult viewers despite being a kids movie. And reasonably so. Zootopia brought up some really great concepts, and it was awesome that people were really paying attention enough to see that. So rather than asking, do people take movies seriously, maybe we should look at what kind of movies are we taking seriously and why. So considering the fact that a lot of people still treat movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, Superman, or Avatar as just popcorn movies, or even to the extent of people misinterpreting different sides, like when people misinterpreted who was on which side in Star Wars, aligning it with certain political people in real life in America. While fandoms do feel things deeply, and there is an argument to taking things seriously because of how much it means to you personally, there's a different way to look at this. In the book Thinking About Movies, the authors explain that every film, regardless of intent, is judged by similar core standards: its ability to hold our attention and engage our emotions, not necessarily whether it's high art, but whether it works as cinema. Now, some filmmakers set to make out statements, but others just want pure escapism. Neither goal is inherently shallow or superior, and the problem is not popcorn movies. Those are absolutely necessary within our ecosystem of film as well. The problem is when audiences stop believing that any movie deserves interpretation. So when fans go hard analyzing Avengers or a Superman movie, that is seriousness. It's just seriousness delivered through a shared language. And then there's the New York Post saying movies like Sinners, which are praised for their emotional complexity and deeper thematic content, showing that there's still an appetite for cinema that challenges us. Now this is where the conversation loops around to media literacy, which isn't just about spotting homages or Easter eggs or callbacks in the latest Marvel or Stranger Things show. It's really more about understanding intention, recognizing emotional and ideological framing, and evaluating how narratives manipulate tone or problem solve through devices like phones or quick fixes. So here's where media literacy comes in, and it's a bit more complicated than people think, because media literacy isn't just about necessarily even understanding what movie is in front of you. Media literacy has been constantly evolving, especially in today's generation, because before it was just there are newspapers, and as media has evolved over the centuries, over the decades, over the generations, and first you then had the printing press, and then television was invented, and then there's color in movies trying to compete with television just to try and keep up and keep people going to the cinemas. So there's all of these things that are constantly changing what media even looks like, and evaluating a book is completely different than evaluating a movie. So it's a different lens for every different type of media you're looking at, and media literacy even goes far beyond just the ability to understand whatever you're consuming, but it's also this just general knowledge as well about the community around you and what you're consuming is, According to scholar W. James Potter, which is not Harry Potter's father, media literacy isn't just reading comprehension, it's a constellation of skills: analyzing messages, recognizing patterns, understanding intent, questioning credibility, and resisting emotional manipulation. I mean, how many times are you watching something and the narrator is unreliable? But you have to be aware enough to understand if the director is pointing you in a certain way to try and direct you away from figuring out the true ending of the plot, or if the narrator themselves is, to even recognize that the narrator is unreliable. How often do you recognize that the narrator is unreliable? Let me know. Do you even notice that kind of stuff? Do you think about that? Do you have trust issues? Tell me, yes or no. So if you don't know what this is, because I didn't know until I read this paper, Ofcom, Ofcom, is a UK communications regulator, and that defines media literacy as the ability to access, understand, and create media across contexts, emphasizing that it's never fully achieved because media itself keeps evolving. And this is from Ofcom 2005. So when people say, I just didn't get it, that movie made no sense, nothing really happened, that's not necessarily failure of the film. Sometimes it's a breakdown in media literacy. And it's also important to note that media literacy coexists with open-mindedness. Open-mindedness isn't agreeing with everything, it's being willing to replace. To say it simply, it's being willing to replace the idea that this is garbage because it's not the good old days with the idea that what new thing is this asking me to consider? Psychology research shows that people often reject ideas that contradict what they already believe, especially in fandom spaces. I mean, you've been in those Reddit threads where people will always believe what they want to believe. And instead of integrating new perspectives, they double down with confirmation bias. I know I love myself some confirmation bias when I'm working on a theory for one of my videos, but this is the real challenge here. So for example, debates about Marvel Phase 5, reactions to DC's new tone shift, and discussions about the Stranger Things finale arcs and how you feel about season 5. These are less about whether these stories matter and more about how open people are to different kinds of storytelling. And if you haven't heard this before, this is something that psychologists have warned us about for quite some time, that if you believe that you are immune to propaganda, you are probably already influenced by it. Research in media psychology shows that people tend to accept information that confirms their existing beliefs and reject or rationalize information that challenges them. When confronted with contradictory data, many people even double down instead of reevaluating, which is also linked to confirmation bias. So, you basically make your own confirmation bias if you can't find confirmation bias information. So this is why first impressions really matter. So if you walk into a movie convinced this is pretentious, this is woke nonsense, this is corporate garbage, I really hate this actor, I'm not gonna like this, they're gonna bother me the whole time, then you've already closed the door on understanding it. They argue that films don't just communicate ideas, they test our willingness to engage with unfamiliar perspectives. Open-mindedness isn't passive, it's an active skill. Now, something you might not have necessarily realized has become an issue in modern day storytelling within the plot lines of our movies is how the iPhone has even affected how a movie plays out. So modern characters can call home, text proof of evidence of something happening, pull up receipts absolutely instantly, look things up on the internet, because if you're watching a movie set in today's day and age, why wouldn't you be able to do that? So that kills the traditional conflict. So a lot of our movies, and I know most of my fans are Marvel and DC, so a lot of writers have had to build around that, creating contrived obstacles just so a story can continue to function, because so much is just at their fingertips instead of having to go on some quest. I mean, think about how many movies used to be about a quest. Nobody ever comes for Lord of the Rings. Don't you dare think I was talking about that. So this reflects a larger media literacy issue. Viewers are primed to expect instant resolution, not deeper narrative investment. This also ties into how streaming platforms are shaping storytelling. Binge culture rewards clear, fast answers instead of waiting a week for an episode. Rapid plot progression can flatten deeper exploration. How often are we complaining that that things were wrapped up too quickly and the endings just didn't have enough time. But at the same time, streaming platforms also give room for plenty of films that deserve to exist in this world. So it's not that streaming is destroying movies, it's transforming the ecosystem of attention. And as we know, what designates a good movie is its ability to keep our attention. So remember when Endgame was like this massive theater event? But because Stranger Things has always been a TV show, you're texting people in real time, people live tweeting their reactions. So these are all remnants of theater culture, communal engagement that feels lost within the streaming era. But here's what's new. Online fandoms act as community theaters within texts. Influencers and other content creators break down episodes and films even frame by frame. And for better or worse, reactions are spread faster and deeper than ever. Not only is that because people have the immunity or the comfortability of posting from behind their phone screens, but also because our For You pages actually kind of act like an echo chamber. Like, we built our algorithms brick by brick, so you're kind of only seeing the things that you want to see, which is a phenomenal thing, and that's exactly what you should be doing. You shouldn't see something that you don't want to see. But at the same time, if you're only getting confirmation bias from your own same opinions and you're not hearing other opinions, now if you're just watching silly, funny, dipshit stuff, by all means. But like, if that's the only place you're getting like your news, maybe you should not only get your news from social media. So while theaters are fewer and far between, the shared meaning hasn't disappeared, it's just moved. But fun fact, the height of American cinema and film industry was actually during World War II. That was when most Americans went to the movies as well. And according to the Encyclopaedia Britannica, by 1946, 2/3 of Americans were attending the movies weekly. These were community events, shared reference points, literally communal glue. So then came around television, which from the day it started was always painted as this huge villain against cinema. But the accessibility was never really the downside of this medium, rather the risk it posed to the culture hub that was going to the theater, where now most viewers were divided into today's day and age, like I said, the echo chambers. But before, you would get together. I mean, I remember in college, all of the girls would get together to watch the same TV show. We were like, oh, you watch this TV show? Anybody we knew that watched that TV show, we'd all watch it together. And it was the most fun that we had. I miss that. I hate watching TV by myself, truly, honestly. I hate it. So now communities are held together by TikTok communities, Instagram, Discord chats, YouTube essays, podcast spaces. So film and TV influencers, when they're thoughtful, act as bridges, helping people interpret stories through and across this fragmented platform. So in no world do they replace theater culture, but they do keep the conversation alive when the crowd all goes home. But the key I said a few sentences ago is when they're thoughtful. A lot of times they can steer you the wrong way, spread a specific agenda, and it's really helpful that you have the media literacy, like when you're consuming any content from TV, to understand who your narrator is and the type of content that they're putting out, so you have the right frame of mind before you consume it. Media literacy isn't just understanding a plot. It's recognizing why a movie earns attention, how creative and corporate pressures collide, and how streaming algorithms reward predictability. Not only how technology reshapes the conflict within our plots, but also how it shapes the evolution of the way our films are produced. I mean, again, how many people are complaining about the color grading today? So I was raised with my entire family always saying this one saying: you can do anything if you can read the instructions. But reading isn't always the goal, interpretation is. Media literacy today isn't declining so much as being redefined. Technically, media literacy has been declining since like the 70s. Modern literacy combines information literacy, emotional awareness, cultural context, and platform awareness. And movies, like all media, demand we slow down, stay curious, resist instant judgment, put that damn phone down and pay attention. But phones are also affecting the plot of the movie, not just within the movie itself, but in real life. People are actively told on production teams that the plot has to be followable with somebody on their phone watching TV. And I am just as guilty as the next person next to me. So I actively have to force myself to put my phone away. Even when I'm at the movie theater, I'm like itching, like, ooh, I have to check it. And I have to make sure I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because I'll really go crazy if I feel it vibrating. I have a problem. Everybody has a problem. My work is on my phone, so that's my justification, even though it's definitely not a good one. But the fact that we're dumbing our plots down is crazy. We are getting watered down plots. Not only are the plots being faster because technology is being incorporated inside them, but like we're also getting it watered down so we can still pay attention while using our technology. And people are, I don't know, the idea of people intaking two types of, and like it's like we are watching TV, but also like you're like listening to a podcast, but also like doing something like else, like where you're supposed to be listening and paying attention. Like, I don't know. I'm on a tangent. Anyway, I hope that from all of this you take away that people are still taking movies seriously, just not in the old way. So maybe serious now means analyzing the meaning on TikTok, debating MCU lore for weeks. Let me know what you think in the comments, what seriousness in media literacy looks like today to you. Thank you guys so much for listening and for supporting my podcast. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you continue to stay because we have some really exciting things lined up really soon. But yeah, thank you so much, and a round of applause to my editing team who has just done a phenomenal job turning this podcast around and giving it a huge breath of life. So let us know what you think about the editing difference between the old episodes and the new episodes in the comments. But I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Bye.